Hello everybody, my name is Gerben de Vries and welcome to Conscious Yes, where we talk about the inner world, the world of the spirit, whatever it means for you to be alive. And I think that deserves some attention. There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of entertainment, and it's time for some sincerity in our lives, about life itself, about your life, what it means to be alive, and thought and emotions, and whatever you go through. Because we normalize so much, and how we've normalized our lives right now, I think it's become a pretty small and petty affair for a lot of people. It's become so small around work and what we can do in our lives, and what life really means for you. We don't inquire so much anymore, because there's so much authority out there. And please don't use these videos as a source of authority. What I mean by that is, don't believe anything I say. Look for yourself. That's the only thing that these words can do, is mirror back to you how you're doing. How you doing? What they can mirror back to you, your own operating, your own feelings, your own erroneous assumptions, your own axioms, whatever you have believed in for yourself to be true, a pillar in your life, what you stand on. Do you know? What do you stand on? What beliefs do you stand on? And what I mean with that is this whole idea about our own personality, what spirituality usually tries to bite its teeth in, is this idea about you are a personality. You're this ego that has to go through life and makes all its decisions, and thinking is the main modus operandi, and choice making, action, all comes from thought, making decisions, which is one side of the equation. It's one side of the coin. It's very useful, and we're so good at it. In the physical realm, we need that authority of a car mechanic, a dentist telling us what we should do. You trust that person has specialized so much in it that they have that authority. A doctor, do you know? But inwardly, about our emotions, about what's right and wrong, can we accept that same authority? What religions do subconsciously, what TV does, what governments do. Our parents, our peers, as we grow up, we build this whole castle of consensus about reality. And, we're such a herd animal in that way, that we so much want to make sure we fit in and are okay with the consensus of the group. So it's a tricky path in that way, spirituality, because that's the first thing it starts to attack or look into, is your belief systems, the things you're afraid of, and the pillars of belief that we stand on, this house of cards that we build for ourselves. And so, like I said, the spirituality, like the house of cards of this personality, of ego that we stand on, that we think is real, do you know? That we believe to be a real thing of substance. You are a person that can get better, can get worse, lose something, gain something. And there's so much to see in that, because it is the root of all movement, of all action, of all choice making, of your life. This movement of personality. All our emotions, all our fights, all our sorrows, all our conflicts, our regrets. This is all movements of a personality that stands on all these beliefs. And we get sold all these axioms, all these consensus about what is true knowledge, what is true beliefs. And belief is so important. We're so eager. Not belief is important. The move to find out the movement of belief, what place it has in your life. We give away our power by giving somebody else the authority to tell us what we should believe in, what is right and wrong. And don't fool yourself. Even if you're an atheist, we go through that. We subconsciously pick it up from TV, through sitcoms or whatever, do you know? The news, the governments, through... They want you to believe certain things, right? I mean, and politics is very good at playing around with that, the psychology of our inner psychology of how the human mind works. They're really good at working that. And belief, not to call it bad or wrong, but belief is this hook out there that special interest groups, businesses, governments, sociopaths can use to grab onto and tear you left to right. Believing that your country is better than the other one, believing that your soccer team is better than the other one. And it sounds petty, but it creates that conflict, it creates that subliminal or subconscious idea of here's me and there's you. Believing that there's a God, believing that what is right and wrong in that way, believing that we should invade that country because there's a threat. In politics it becomes very dangerous. I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican. And I stand behind that, do you know? That it becomes very dangerous if we buy things because we identify with these ideas. We link our personality, we link our identity to what we believe in. And so spirituality, that's the first thing it starts to shake at. That identification, that pillar, what we stand on. For many people in the world, that still is religion. Do you know? There's a God out there that's looking over me. And Jesus tells you, you're a bit of all right, so don't worry. In Hinduism, there's the belief that life is only a game, it's a play. Which, to a certain degree they're true, but if you believe in them and you haven't found them for yourself, which is completely different. When you believe, you take something on. When you've seen it for yourself, it's a completely different thing, right? So can those two be... When you see it, you don't have to believe in it. You see that it's so. It's a factual thing. And like in Hinduism in India, life it's that game. It's that, it's in their whole religion. It's in their whole philosophy. And therefore, it's unimportant. It doesn't really matter. It's what people take out of it. And you can see what India looks like. People don't really care. There's eight children to a set of parents and all that stuff. And not to call that bad, but look at how that comes about. India is a beautiful place. It's really amazing. There's so much going on. It's so you can't call that bad if you're there. So all knowledge, in a way, is believing something to be true, epistemology. With that comes a sense of imitation. Yeah, we all imitate. There's nothing wrong with that. We take on ideas that we think is true, that we believe in. We put all culture is this whole thing of you believe something. You take things on. Nothing wrong with that. I think this diversity is beautiful, but there are implications. My culture is better than your culture. Yeah, that's in politics what is being used to have people to go to war, to agree to go to war, right? Men to go to war. It's one of the hooks, do you know? So you have to sell this idea that your country is so much better than somebody else's country, or create the threat that some country, what country is a threat to America, for crying out loud? The military force of United States is ridiculous. That makes the rest look like some kind of schoolyard playpen playing military. But something they want to force agendas on the world, and so you have to create certain situations and make people believe in that something is ethical, or that we have to go after something. Make wars. So it becomes very important that we look at these movements of how are we so gullible? How are we so easily propagandized? And we are, because from early age on, this comes about through school, through our parents, through our peers, TV, video games, whatever. There's nothing wrong with all that. And not in its essence. Anything can be abused. Look at governments. So authority, again, very important in the outer world. We need authority. We need people to specialize. But can there be any authority on the inner world? Even from a psychiatrist. They should do the same thing of showing you your own workings. You have to look for yourself. The authority of ideas. And in spirituality, we have to really look for ourselves. Not take on ideas about you should be happy or sadness is bad. That's another example. Like the 1 in 12 people, about 25 million people are on antidepressants, these SSRIs, because we cannot cope. People are so depressed, and of course the clinical psychiatry is immensely corrupted and by the companies that make the drugs, and so little children, little boys, on these drugs, on Ritalin, and it's just horrible stuff. And we believe that we need that. We believe so quickly, these clinical psychiatrists, like, not wanting to deal with the fact, because we're so busy in our lives. There's so many other things that we think are important. So let's just take something to cope with it. It's all escapism, right? And inherently, that's what believing, taking on something, is. It's an escapism. And not wanting to look for yourself. Not wanting to investigate, find the truth about something for yourself. Raising children is I'm a father, and I think anybody who's a parent will know that feeling of, what am I gonna do? I really don't know. All of a sudden you have this small little creature here with all sorts of needs. And for me, I love being in that place, just not knowing and just looking at what comes up in your own heart. What you feel that needs to be done. And you learn so much from a little child in that way. But not knowing, from parenting. And so we don't like to be in that space of not knowing. And do some investigation for ourselves. What do I think? What do I think? And it doesn't mean that you can't go out to experts and learn for yourself. But most people don't want to do it. They want to just accept some authority about that every child should be sent to school and basically be raised by the state, by the government. And we want other people to tell us what to do. And so we don't have to think too much about things. Investigate for ourselves. And when somebody's working on your car, you don't have to investigate for yourself. When it comes to your child, when it comes to your inner yourself, your feelings, your emotions, because you're a living thing. That's the main thing. You're a living thing. You're not a dead thing that you can walk around and take apart. Like a car. You can walk around the car. This is broken. Fix my catalytic converter. You can measure it easily. That's what psychiatry tries to do. It looks at you like a car. This is how it should work. And look, we took a brain scan and there's something going on there. So it's treating the effect of the problem, not the problem itself. And actually in a car, it's the catalytic converter not working properly can be a result of something else, right? But we're so eager to treat the effects. We're so eager to say, I feel shitty, and so here's some drugs, here's some alcohol, marijuana, and here's some music, here's some pornography, here's anything to take me away from having to feel this way. Because, I believe I have to be happy all the time, which is something that society, that the world teaches us as well. We should be happy. If you don't feel happy, there's something wrong with you. So we believe that, we take that on. It's like, yeah, I kind of want to feel happy all the time. It does sound very good. It's not life, that's not life, feeling happy all the time. And so we don't want to treat the problem. We really like to treat the effects. And if we look into psychiatry, if I don't change my oil in my car for 10 years and my car breaks down, I can take the car apart and see that my pistons have seized and therefore say the car broke down because I didn't change my oil. This is what psychiatry tries to do to the human mind. We go back into the past and let's say I feel very anxious. I'm anxious to meet other people. That's social anxiety sort of thing. Psychiatry goes back into the past and maybe it says like, hey, that anxiety that you feel is not your own, it's your parents' anxiety. You just took it on. Or it looks at certain, why the triggers are there. Why, for instance, because as a child you got bullied at school and therefore you feel anxious. So psychiatry tries to go back into the past, like looking at the oil change, and say, this is why you feel anxious right now, because there's these triggers and all this stuff. And then taking that anxiety, and in the same manner that we walk around the car and take it apart, trying to treat it like that dead thing, like a car, not being alive. Trying to take apart the anxiety. This is why you got anxious. This is really, it takes a very subtle mind to see the nuance of this. I hope this makes sense. So, we're not looking at anxiety, but we're looking at a particular anxiety. It's what psychiatry tries to do. Not fear, but a particular fear, a situation, how it came about, what was your parents' situation, what was your childhood like. We look for cause and effect. I didn't change my oil, and so my car breaks down 10 years later. We're always trying to look for that cause and effect. And it sounds so logical. And in philosophy, there's been ideas about that. Cause and effect doesn't exist. It's God's sort of will, right? Occasionism, I think it's called. But if you look at life, how it moves, there's only the present moment, right? The first thing that we learn about when we go into spirituality is meditation, and the power of now, Eckhart Tolle and all that stuff. It's the present moment, and it has a lot to do with psychological time, right? The present, future, and the past. So, in fact, there's only the present moment. In reality, anything that's future or past is our mental projections, is thought, ideas. So there is only the present moment, really. What the mind then tries to do is, with its limited ideas and memories and thoughts, to go back into the past, memory, mental images, knowledge that we've built up, and trying to make sense of the past, trying to make sense of why I am, of the living thing of the present. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm feeling this way. This is why my car broke down, right? Makes a lot of sense. But look at what we do. And then you can make up for yourself if that's a smart way to go about things. There was somebody who said, the Big Bang happened, and it's common consensus about how the universe started, which is, for no reason, out of nothing, which is no different really than saying, let there be light, but, whatever, that's a whole different discussion. So the Big Bang is boom, and it banged, and it slung all sorts of of things. It slung reality outwards. Then, well, it was a lot of silence for a long time, cooling down, all that jazz. Planets got formed, life on bacteria, life started on this planet, human life came about. And if you look back in the past, we can, like I just did, we cut it up into separate events. The dinosaurs were here from blah-de-da till blah-de-da. And we say that's a separate event. Then an asteroid hit the planet, and the dinosaurs were gone, which there was the opportunity for other things to evolve, like us, which was an accident, it's so. And we cut everything up in separate events. This is what the mind does to try and make sense of reality. To try and make sense, we catalog everything. We fragment our reality and we catalog, right? Can you see how we do that? With everything? Which, again, in the practical realm is so useful. This is how we learn. It's true, like mentally, with memory, with knowledge. With the thought processes is how we learn, is through cutting things up, splicing things up, looking for cause and effect. You learn not to put your hand into a beehive. You learn pretty fast, right? And that way, physically, like about things happening. It's how we survived. It's a survival mechanism to self-preserve, right? It's part of nature, is to learn, and this is how we got self-preserved. But so that whole movement of cutting reality up and into fragments and learning from that, we apply that to the inner realm as well. And so we cut up ideas about ourselves, about our events, and we try to create an image about ourselves that we've sliced up and make a conclusion out of. Conclusion is the main thing. I don't change the oil in the car breaks down. Cause effect. Conclusion. I learned. Maybe if 10 cars do the same thing, we can say that's how something works. Can we do the same thing about our emotions, about ourselves, the idea that I have of myself? Can I build an idea of myself that's accurate at all? We're influenced by so many things we're not aware of. Influenced. Through propaganda, through beliefs from other people, our parents. So we become this collection of ideas. And we say, that's me. Things I've taken on from other people and agreed upon. Say, that's me, that's my unique expression. But so we slice everything up, all our experiences about it from ourselves. And then in psychiatry we say, let's look for the cause of this. Let's look at the cause for why you feel anxiety right now, in the present moment. Let's look at what triggers are there. If I'm in a social environment, I feel anxious, let's say. And so we go into the past and try and find why this came about, and there's commonalities between, how these things came about. Being bullied, being neglected as a child, stuff like that. But it's looking for that cause and effect. But the truth is that life is a living thing, and there's so many things that influence us. There's so many things that create who we are. And then, we are a living thing. We are life. We cannot be taken apart like a dead thing, like a car. As soon as you're trying to do anything to your anxiety, it will change, it will move away. So with mental ideas about where we try to change our anxiety. I've concluded it's my past. That's how we try and look at. So you see, we're looking at a particular instance of anxiety. We're looking at the outcome of anxieties instead of how anxiety in itself comes about, what it is, how it moves, which you can only see for yourself. This is not something you can learn about, because it's a living thing. Anxiety is just a word, and we have ideas about anxiety. But when it actually comes up in the present moment, see, this is why we cannot chop off anxiety. We cannot chop its head. And the same thing that we cannot chop the head of thoughts. Do you know those, I think they're called the ants, the automatic negative thinking. Those thoughts that just come, that are negative. And we try and chop them off. It's like, no. It's like, I don't want to feel that way right now. I don't want to look into that. I don't want to, but they come like a hydra, like it grows like chop off one head, 10 new ones appear, right? So there's that not wanting to deal with this fear that comes up. And so we treat it like it's a particular fear that we have to treat by understanding it somehow. To understand the circumstances. Instead, we're trying to understand the circumstances instead of the real thing. So we look at our environment only. Our environment shapes us. But there's, yeah, so there's in politics there's the libertarian movement, which basically says that the government inherently doesn't work, right? That it's responsible for all sorts of issues, and this is what it's doing wrong, and shouldn't make that policies, and more free market, and but really government is the gun. No? Somebody else is holding the gun. There's something holding the gun. The government is the gun against their head, but who's holding the gun? The circumstances of fear, particular fear and anxiety, if I'm in a social environment, the social environment is not the problem. It's not even how your anxiety came about is the problem. We all have the potential to be anxious, even if you don't feel anxious. We all have the potential to suffer. We can lock ourselves up in a cave and we'll never have to feel fear again. But the potential is still going to be there, right? So what is that? How does fear come about? How does anxiety come about? In the present moment. Not because of something, not in this particular instance. And so look at how we cut everything up. A thought does that. It tries to help you out. It tries to judge, measure, fragment our reality constantly. Every given moment of the day. How useful, right? How great. This is how we learned how to work on cars. It's a survival mechanism because we learned how to run away from bears or something, like we learn how to survive in the outer world, like we knew how to pick certain berries and not other ones. How to grow food. We learn from reasoning, from rationale, theories. We learn from empirical through experiences. Both are there in the body. We learn things with the body, we learn things with our minds. But we are very focused on that mind learning, on theories, on ideas, on concepts, on conclusions. So we cut things apart, very useful. On the inner world, when we try to do that, when we judge feelings, ideas, feelings to be bad, I don't want to feel anxious. So I'll do all sorts of things, including therapy and whatever. I'll do all sorts of things to escape from it in general. I feel bad. I judge it to be bad because I've learned that if I judge something to be bad, I'll learn from it. Do you see? In the physical realm, I've judged something to be bad and I think I learn. If I stick my hand into a bee's nest, it hurts. It is, I'm going to get attacked by 1 million bees and all that. So I judge that to be, let's not do that again. I'm judging it. Fear, anxiety doesn't feel very good. So thought says, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to judge it to be bad. Because thought wants to help you out. It's this self-preserving mechanism. It says, don't go there. It says, I'm going to protect you from this. You feel sorrow. It's because of this situation. You got bullied at school. So let's put up a wall, a resistance, so you don't have to feel that anymore, that feeling. It was so overwhelming. It was so horrible, so disabling. So let's put up a wall there. Let's put up a shield, so I don't have to feel that feeling anymore. And we dull ourselves. We dull ourselves. We close ourselves off. We lose the connection with people because we're afraid to get hurt. It's okay, it's where we're at. It's the fact. So let's not run away from it. Let's not try and do the same thing again and say that's bad. We should connect. That's a reaction. That's in many ways what psychiatry does. Okay, we should connect all of a sudden. That's solving the problem. Thought wants to constantly solve the problem. It thinks it's your friend by constantly trying to solve problems. It wants to take care of you. But spiritually, inwardly, we cannot solve problems. Solving the problem is the problem. Solving the problem is escapism, is the not wanting to deal with the problem. When you feel fear, when you feel not so, you feel uncertain, and there's doubt, anxiety. Am I doing the right thing with my life? And in spirituality, those feelings will come up, no doubt. Self-doubt, uncertainty. And the mind wants to come in, it wants to help, it wants to solve, it sees an idea of enlightenment, which has no sorrow, no suffering, and feeling all happy, juicy, and warm and cuddly. And so it says, what can I do to get there? And so there's plenty of people that will sell you all sorts of things, right? Do this for 7 days and you'll feel happy, you'll be enlightened, or all that steps. The mind loves steps, because I can get from A to B by effort, by me doing something. And then I can pat myself on the back. That's spiritual pride. And for a lot of people this is meditation as well. We learn that if I meditate every day for 2 hours, then I'm going to get there. I'm going to be mindful. I'm going to have all this space in my life. And can you see the trap? Can you see the trap of chasing ideas, of believing something, selling yourself off, selling your own experience off? You feel shitty. Where is it written large that you shouldn't feel shitty? Well, in general, in society, it's everywhere, right? You shouldn't feel shitty. You feel down? Here's the upper. Believing. Believing is not believing yourself. It's giving away your own power, your own investigative power, the power to look for yourself. You don't have to reinvent the wheel in anything out there. If there's somebody you really like to listen to about parenting and learn, because there's factual evidence about what's the right and the wrong thing for your child, we should look at that. We should investigate, and still then have question marks, right? These days with Google out there, a lot of people don't trust their house doctor anymore. They want to look it up for themselves and make sure. So even there, your authority is waning a little bit. But then even Google is the authority as well. So uncertainty is something we have to look at for ourselves. What does it mean? And insecurity, feeling psychologically insecure. So that's a little bit about belief and how this operates. And I hope this has been helpful to you. And again, you don't have to believe these words. You can look for yourself, mirror to yourself. What do you stand on? What house of cards did you accept? which is spirituality. It's just looking at that. It's just being in the moment and notice what is going on. The judgment will go on. The judgment will be there, even towards yourself. But notice that. Notice how you judge the judgment, how you then, if you learn something about judgment, maybe then you say, yeah, that's true, I believe that. So I'm going to now call judgment bad. That's the same loop, the same back door that the ego then comes into. And so that's it's a sound operating of the mind, of the ego, where whatever it does to try and solve its problem will keep you in the problem. That's really important to understand, is that whatever you try and do to get out of this, out of the ego, will contribute towards egotism or towards reinforcing the ideas about yourself. If you have an idea that you have to get out of this, that you have to be enlightened, in other words, different from where you are, improving yourself, is going to add to yourself, to the problem. So it's not a problem, but look at how things are. Look at how you move. In fact, you're outside that box. You're outside that cog of wheels, the wheels that are turning. Whatever we try to imagine, ideas, problem solving, use thought. It's like Einstein said, you cannot solve the problem with the same thing that created it. And that's so true. Thought created this world for itself, this inner world, and it's pretty bulletproof in itself. But where are you? Are you in that box? Are you the ego? Are you all those ideas that you've taken on for yourself? Are you your belief system? Can you positively point towards yourself and say, that's me? Okay, I'll leave you with that. Hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for your time and have a good day.